Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Dan, the voice behind ThatKaitoDan, and with Volume 7 looming very near, it hit me really hard that I've been doing RWBY content, specifically episode reviews, for this series since Volume 2 first began. With the new season coming up, I wanted to do some kind of video looking back on the past chapters, and also make up for the fact that I never really reviewed Volume 1. So, what I've decided to do is borrow a concept from another YouTuber, Jelloapocolypse, who has previously reviewed the likes of Disney films, DreamWorks films, and Studio Ghibli films in 10 words or less. For those of you not in the know of how this format works, I'll be going through every episode of RWBY up to the most recent episode, Volume 6's finale, describing my thoughts in just 10 words or less. No duh. I'll also be giving the episode a score out of 10 depending on its quality in my eyes, and I'll even throw in some superlative awards just for some extra gag potential. Now, unlike Jello's video where he included negative numbers dependent on ironic enjoyment or guilty pleasures, I'll just be sticking to positive numbers, as I never really had a negative number ranking to give. That's not to say I thought no episode was bad, cause trust me, I do know that there are some real stinkers, but I'll just be using this ranking scheme to make things easier on me to rank and easier for you to understand my feelings on each episode. And be sure to stick around after the Volume 6 finale entry, as I'll go deeper into my feelings on each volume's best and worst ranked episode. Finally, I should remind you that these are just my opinions, not fact. And please don't think that just because I say I hated an episode or I called out something bad, it's me hating the show, the RWBY, and so on. I clearly wouldn't be doing the content that I've done so far if I wasn't a fan. I love RWBY, flaws and all, but that love hasn't and will not stop me from poking fun at it and making note of its stumbles. If you felt an episode was better or worse than how I ranked them, that's fine. We all have our opinions. Just please discuss my thoughts and share your own respectfully and calmly. Also, yeah, this is gonna have a lot of spoilers, so do watch with caution. Okay then, with all that out of the way, let's begin. Young girl fights criminals, earns big academy entry. Seems legit. Meets Snooty, Pouty, Sicky, and Yang's friends who never return. What school is trusted with a sleepover on day 1? And you thought your first day of school was wild. So partners are made the same way Pokemon battles start? Pairings get made while Pyrrha teaches Jean about protection. Lewd. Jean's screams are the best part of this episode. Monty's magic glows in iconic fight with a kick-ass tune. We've all been like Weiss once during group projects. I want to be the team leader. Nope. Well, okay. I blinked for a second and the episode's already over? Tired, lame, douche canoe, bully art cliches are tired and lame. This really didn't need to be a two-parter. SS Arcos and the show breaks free from rough waters. Blake is a cat girl? What's next? Penny is a robot? Gunchucks? Giant lasers? Tease of dark times? Okay, I'm sold. Best food fight ever. Of all time. I play emotional teammate in defense mode. Penny's a robot? I never saw that coming. Cool fight with neat ship name shoutout and memorable debut. Forget about stopping evil schemes. The prom is tomorrow! Ah! Quite the emotional episode that Yang especially desperately needed. Heartwarming dancing tries to gloss over Cinder's disappearing mask. Cookie! Oh, wait, law talk? Whatever. Who's a good boy? Oobleck is the teacher we all wish we could have. Man, someone should teach RWBY how to headbutt or something. Neo steals the show as Volume sets up intense finale. Shame it's wasted within minutes. At least Team Coffee rocks. Touching intro and fun noodle scene defeats clunky turny kicker. Filler fights featuring Funded 4 feels frequently forgettable. These two really can't stand each other. I ship it. I knew those living in wealth were also necromancers. Best use of original tournament fighters with catchy jazz tune. We have to sit on that cliffhanger for 3 weeks? Anyone wish Cinder kept the short hair look? Jean, you said the right thing at the wrong time. And here we go. Remember when the biggest issue was dealing with Cardin? Earth-shattering final few minutes rocks the story, cast, and fans. Blinded by the light. The narrator is really evil, OMG. New team, new animation engine, same old goofballs. Damn it, RWBY. Too soon. This isn't flying, this is floating with style? Well written and performed episode, topped by epic Bernie burn. Is it possible to adopt parents? This Life Is Mine for best RWBY song, no contest. RWBY's too innocent, she's too nice. Dude, she dismembered someone. Shame most remember this episode only for Blake's slaps. Don't you know you never split the party? Aww, Kitty, Ren, and Nora. Well, time for tragic backstory. Not sure what's more dangerous, the Nuka-Larvae or topless sun. Ren and Nora's finest moment ends volume on a high. Enjoy those 2D shots of Haven, that's all you get. Enjoy that interesting White Fang character, that's all you get. Oscar's old man impression carries rare grade Haven House scene. Some of Barbara's best voice work earns touching reunion hug. For all this talking, not a lot happens. I'm concerned. Not even another reunion can save this being a letdown. Heartwarming bonding scene? Nice. Even more frustrating talking? Not nice. Weiss is easily the most developed character in the series. Bar Cinder being selfish, nothing changed in this episode. Blade becomes self-arsonist and recruits lesbian friend for furry army. Spear through the side and Cinder's to blame. Wait, what? A problematic episode, but damn that twist was amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Battle of the Bitches. Raven gets roasted and RWBY reunites. So, some positives gained? Hands down, the best volume premiere. Great return to form. You know you're in trouble when RWBY's questioning you. The hills are alive with the sounds of petty gods. Does Salem's Realm even have window repairmen? You know what's better than Neo's return? Corpses! Yay! It's fine. Who am I kidding? This episode ruled. Adorable LGBT family almost makes up for Maria's screams. Almost. Enchanting music, compelling interactions, and Silver Eyes info freaking finally! The only thing deader than Pyrrha is Oscar's on-screen development. For some reason, I suddenly want to watch Genlock. Rest in peace, Bumblebee the bike. You did good. Bees for everyone! The power of love beats Godzilla. Bring on Volume 7. And that's every episode. If you want to see how they all rank against each other, I'll leave a link in the description down below to a document. For now though, let's get into the best and worst ranked episode of each volume, starting with the worst and ending with the best. Volume 1 Worst, Jaundice Part 1. Oh boy, the Jean bully arc. It's no secret most fans aren't so hot on this part of Volume 1, with how it took focus away from Team RWBY when we still needed time to establish their bond and learn more about this school and the world as a whole. Instead, we got a typical bully plotline that wasn't fresh and actually did more harm than good. It's a shame too, cause I do like Jean a lot. I relate to him in many ways, good and bad, and he's definitely improved as a character over the years. But this arc did him very few favors early on, though this episode's biggest failing point isn't even his fault. Now, I realize RWBY was a fledgling project during this time, and it had to work with limitations thanks to its very tiny budget. One such limitation was episodes usually not lasting longer than 15 minutes, and some episodes had to be shorter than others which needed the longer runtime. However, that doesn't mean you can't let those small episodes feel inconsequential. You still need to put out a worthwhile product that entertains the viewer and makes the weekly wait be worth it. This was not worth the wait. Despite not even being the shortest episode of the volume, Jaundice Part 1 was starved for any fulfilling content, and went by way too fast as a result, with the episode only having the appearance of eventual expanded background character Velvet, a rare on-screen example of faunus racism, and one iconic line from Laura to look back on fondly, and even that doesn't change much in terms of the overall quality. Volume 1 Best, Players and Pieces. Shouldn't come as a surprise this one, you all know why this is the best of Volume 1. Not only does it have one of the most iconic fights in the series even to this day, which helped the series grow into what it is now, it also has great humor, sharp visuals, and musical accompaniment that just makes you want to get up and punch through a wall. So much energy, so much excitement. There's a reason the big fight in this episode became the backbone of future design work for later fights. It's Monty's expert action storytelling at its finest, with an unmatched level of stylistic flair and attitude. Even now you can look back at this chapter and find something to smile about, and thus its iconic status is justified not just in this fan's heart, but in most fans too. Volume 2 Worst, Breach. Sadly, the weakest of the volume finales for me. Yes, more so than volumes 5 and 6. Even with this episode's positives, those other two at least maintained the threat level of the situation the previous episode built up, and ended matters on a satisfying note. Can't say the same for this one. After a quality build up to this chaotic finale with the Grim storming Vale streets and our heroes battered and bruised, all the danger was sucked out almost instantly in a finale that felt too eager to reach the credits. Team RWBY were tearing through Grim with barely any signs of fatigue or injury, despite last episode's train crash, and the Grim in general were taken out way too easily, barely getting any kind of damage in. Sure, Team Coffee kicking ass was entertaining in its own right, and Caffeine is a belter of a track, but if there's any cause for why some folks felt that the Grim were nothing but bullet sponges with little reason to fear them, this was the episode responsible for it. Also, there was little to no reflection on the damage to the city and the safety of the citizens after the battle. The main four barely lamented their failures to stop this incident from happening, and they literally plugged up the hole that let the Grim in, wiping away any visual sign of their effect in the city. Add to that the now retconned Raven Stinger, plus Sun and Neptune's wasted involvement in the fight itself, and this really dropped the ball as a volume finale full of potential. Volume 2 Best, Best Day Ever. The food fight is the obvious main attraction, with its tongue-in-cheek serious vibe and off-the-wall visuals. But beyond the exceedingly fun to watch cafeteria carnage, we have the primary villains showcasing that there is indeed an actual scheme going on, and there's more to their plans than whatever was first believed with just Roman mucking around. This episode made a point to prove that the villains were worth being concerned about. A murder takes place, most of Vel's dust has been stolen, and Cinder, regardless of how you may feel about her now, struck a fire of confident intimidation that swiftly made her come off as a legit threat. Plus, the visuals took a decent step up from the first volume, especially with the background populace, and the new faces like the devious duo Mercury and Emerald and the cheeky noodle Neptune had pleasing debut interactions. While the food fight and all its messy mayhem may be the main course, the tasty offerings before and after it made up for quite the savoury volume premiere. And now I'm hungry. Volume 3 Worst, New Challengers. On one hand, it's a somewhat pleasing addition to the Vital Tournament, mostly in seeing Team Juniper fighting as a team, and a nice moment for the Indiegogo backer who got their team added into a quirky fight with a fan favorite's long overdue debuting full squad. However, on the other hand, the fights were pretty much filler to the main plot, and it does delay things for a pair of bouts that aren't that perfect. Sage gets booted before he ever got a chance to matter in some fashion, there's a lot of awkward standing around doing nothing, and some of the gags, namely the Juniper team talk, does get dragged out a little bit too long. And again, nothing really matters in this episode. There's no progress in the main narrative or any of the characters' arcs, it's just there to move the tournament along. And there's a lot of ways that could have been done while still providing something of worth. Volume 3 Best, Heroes and Monsters. Yeah, obvious top tier pick is obvious. What else can I say about this episode that hasn't already been said? I mean, I guess if I wanted to praise something other than the iconic game-changing scenes, the excellent directing, and the flawless music, I do want to give credit for how the episode wisely balances hopeful good times with the bad. Just cause this is when everything goes to hell doesn't mean that we can't have some uplifting moments. If it was just defeats and darkness all around, viewers wouldn't have a moment to calm down and let the impacts of the previous scenes have a chance to breathe in their mind. By having the heroes barely come out of their respective battles with a victory, all of them being a blast to watch in the process, we're fooled into thinking that even in this violent situation, the good guys will be able to overcome it and save the day. Instead, the RWBY ended things on the most painful note possible. Yet, without the brief light of hope leading up to it, we wouldn't feel as stunned and broken as we did. Just another reason to absolutely adore this episode, even through some tears and scars. Volume 4 Worst of Runaways and Stowaways. On the positive side, I liked what we got out of Yang. A simple snippet of her life swallowed by misery and apathy. No, not that apathy. With a dash of Adam PTSD to show the emotional scars, not just her physical ones, that was stopping her taking up the new arm and getting back in action. I also dug the facial expressions on Blake at the end with Sun, and I'm glad to see that the ship had some anti-grim measures to it, shining a light on ways that the world of Remnant tries to cope with the monsters outside of counting on the Huntsman. But the scene with Cinder and Salem dangled this relic plot thread out of the blue with very little context for us to build anything from. And then there's the fight with the Sea Fei Long. While it was exciting getting to see Blake and Sun try to fight a Grimm in a battlefield that works against them, somebody forgot to turn off the moon gravity cheat code, cause there was some really off-putting moments of characters moving or floating through the air in ways that just doesn't make sense. It became too distracting at points, and it's a shame because RWBY in the past did a solid job at handling these airborne moments in fights. Next time though, just stick to solid ground. Volume 4 Best, No Safe Haven. A firm contender for my favourite volume finale, No Safe Haven was a tremendous crescendo to the season, both in its gripping fight with the Nukkalavi and the tender emotions it capped off on. One big positive stems from the patched together Team Ranger rocking at their absolute best for the first time since their formation. Compared to their bumpy fight with the Petrogigas in the volume premiere, the brutal and intense clash with the Nukkalavi featured a united group that showed great chemistry even in the face of danger. And it wasn't just about the team's strengths either. Jean showed just how far he's come since the days of Beacon with effective tactics and swordplay, whilst RWBY had a heartfelt moment to finally vent some of her emotions with her letter. And then there's Ren and Nora, the pair finally cementing themselves as deep, engaging major characters, with Ren showing a flurry of emotions not seen from the guy before, and Nora reining him in with her compassion before they finally overcame a demon of their past together. And that beautiful score work. I simply adore how it blended several key leitmotifs into the soothing melody as a way to recollect and cement several characters' newfound state of mind before the next chapter of their respective arcs. Another vital part that made this the perfect send-off leading into Volume 5. And speaking of Volume 5, Volume 5 Worst, A Perfect Storm. A perfect storm this is indeed. It left a big mess after it was done tearing through what was established beforehand. Oh god, this was a rough one. For starters, what should have been an intense altercation between Salem's faction and Raven turned out to be a long, boring, bickering session where for one stupid reason, Cinder botched the villain's entire plans just to get at RWBY, something that wasn't even followed up on, making this moment even more painful. Raven's desire as well to kill Crow left me more confused than anything, and the fact that this entire conversation took place in one fixed spot with barely any movement just zapped away all the tension and made me groan wanting things to end. But then the episode goes one step further and returns to the events in Menagerie to change absolutely nothing. What was the status of things in the previous episode? Gira was being attacked by the Albanes and Blake has to stop Ilya. What happened in this episode? Gira was being attacked by the Albanes and Blake has to stop Ilya. What was the point? You can rip this whole scene out from the timeline and nothing is lost. It doesn't help as well that the pacing was tepid at best and the animation was meandering at worst. After such a fantastic setup for a dread-filled battle, this did nothing but nearly dismantle the hype and urgency. Man, was I happy the Menagerie arc was able to still come good, because this was very close to being a massive stumble thanks to this messy and largely pointless chapter. Volume 5 Best, Alone Together. Volume 5 may have its massive missteps, but in amongst the dirt are some real gems that still shine bright, one of them being this episode. It had gorgeous lighting, a climactic cliffhanger, and two fantastic scenes for their starring characters. Ilya's painful moment of trying to convince herself what she's about to do is right, and her heartbreaking confession made me feel just as bad for Ilya as I did for Blake, providing more weight to their upcoming fight with a lot more on the line than just the lives of Gira and Carly. Also, thank God Blake brought Sun along, not only to free her from her captives, but to also show that she's grown to trust Sun since he joined her. It built on what was explored in Volume 4, with these two capping off a quality setting of the stage for an emotionally heated battle at the Belladonna household, even if the previously mentioned episode nearly caused it to fall at the first hurdle. And in Haven, we got a sullen Yang who, despite looking the strongest she's been in a long while after confronting her mother, is still struggling to deal with the absence of Blake. And in a masterstroke move, the RWBY had Weiss come to her aid. These two in the past have had very little worthwhile moments together as a pair, but what the likes of RWBY, Crow, or even Ozpin couldn't offer to this situation was having the perfect understanding of the issue on both sides. Weiss understood why Yang, the one with the most scars of feelings of abandonment, would be crushed over another person dear to her leaving so suddenly, because Weiss has also had to deal with a lonely life, even with her fractured family being within reach. She could also help Yang see things from Blake's perspective, because while she too misses her, Weiss is able to look past that to realize Blake's fears coming true is the cause for her exit, and that it's unfair to blame her as a result. There's more to this issue than how it affected just Yang, and Weiss was able to help her friend see that through a calm, reasonable, and mature discussion. Weiss showed just how far she's come by burdening herself with the issue of those she cares about, and Yang was able to address one of her biggest issues in a way that also benefited the unity of another key relationship. If only Volume 5 had more gold like this. Volume 6 Worst. So that's how it is. While the other worst entries are episodes that I would generally consider to be flawed or just plain bad, this is actually a good episode that just had the unfortunate bad luck of not being ranked high enough to avoid being at the bottom of the barrel. To its credit, there's a ton of great, engrossing interactions both from the good guys and the bad guys. The likes of Crow, Ozpin, Salem, Hazel, and Mercury all got some new edges to them, and Maria became an instant fan fave with her sharp-witted bickering with Yang and level-headedness, whilst everyone was still reeling from the Jin truth bomb. The biggest thing holding back this episode isn't even that big of an issue, as the slower, more methodical pace did fit for the first episode to follow on from the blockbuster episode that came before it. Again, it's not a bad episode at all, just an above average one that compared to the rest of the volume didn't do anything mind-blowing to stand out. Volume 6 best, August Limited. Volume 5 did a real number on some folks. The underwhelming final third in their eyes was the culmination of a poor volume that, for them, was enough reason to feel concerned about the quality of the series moving forward. And even away from those lots, Volume 6 still had the tough task of dealing with having Team RWBY back together for the first time, after juggling their separate arcs for the last 2 volumes. Good thing then that this was not only a fantastic first chapter of the new volume, but it was, in my opinion, the best volume premiere, stealing the crown from Best Day Ever. There were tender, touching send-offs for Sun and Ilya, some gorgeous backdrops and colours that popped throughout the episode. Adam cemented his root as a volatile figure that looked to rebuild some of his lost threat level, and everything taking place on the August Limited itself was a rush of high-energy action and tension. The animation as well in this fight was much improved from the last volume, with every movement having the right weight to it. The dynamic camera angles helped add an element of velocity befitting their battleground, and the RWBY girls were at their finest with some of the coolest moves pulled off so far on their own and as a team. It had laughs, it had tears, it had great visuals and perfect presentation. It was truly an episode that helped divert the series from its negative route and put the volume on the right track right from the start. And there we have it, my rankings and my reasons all dished out for you to enjoy. And I hope you were able to enjoy this video, not just in terms of the funny quips, but also in my reflections on what came before, as we near the next chapter of RWBY's grand tale. Again, these were just my thoughts, and I'm welcome to hear your takes too. So be sure to leave your comments down below, and maybe even throw in some 10 words or less episode reviews of your own as well. Also, be sure to hit the subscribe and bell buttons and tick the notification box to make sure you get every new video from me as they drop. And be sure to follow me on Twitter as well for updates on future content from the channel, everything regarding RWBY Volume 7, and more. But until next time, have a good day or good night, and peace out.